Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures. Listen to this essay as you're driving along in your car, live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a number of media articles that refer to how illegal aliens, illegal immigrants are getting scammed. Their desperation to illegally get to the West is such that they're prepared to pay bribes or do anything uh, they can to get to the West, to get to that glittering prize of the West, that as soon as they get there, they complain about evil and racist it is. But the glittering prize of the West, and pay any bribes, break any rules, break any laws. But really, are they sort of bad for doing this? Well, no, they are the victims. The victims. They're brown and they're black, and hey, they're victims. Now, there's no shortage or limit to the imagination of the globalist cabal and their media goons, stooges, and flunkies at how to depict black and brown peasants as victims. But let's go through this one because it's interesting. You don't really see anything about it in the mainstream media, and you really have to sort of get a few of these. Online videos and media articles together and try and sort of extract and tease out the details. So get some sort of understanding of what's happening here. So it goes something like this. So say in places like Britain or Australia and elsewhere, the government gives special licenses to certain labour hire business companies, so special licenses of labour hire companies to go and find cheap peasant labour in the third world and bring it into the West, Britain, Australia, and Canada and wherever. So that's the mission that they've got that. Now these people then pay agitators and stirrers. Sometimes they're NGO activists that are sort of given a part-time side gig to go out and stir up some villages in some remote rural community, illiterate peasants, illiterate in their own language, let alone anything else, and hold and dangle the glittering prize in front of them. You can go to the West and streets are paved with gold and so on. And they'll bribe village headmen, the head guy in the village to sort of push the thing. And they'll engage in all sorts of what we would regard as illegal behaviour, gross misrepresentation and all sorts of lies and underhanded tricks, bribes, kickbacks, secret commissions, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, this is so these special licenses are given. Now, the thing is that these special licenses are given typically to, if it's say Indians, so they'll give it to an Indian business or supposed business that really doesn't exist. The business is registered in a corner convenience store or something like that to supposedly bring these people in from the third world to say work in things like burger flipping or particularly in say care homes and things like that. That's a big area of activity. So now what the person that they give the license to is already a well-known criminal for fraud and all sorts of things, back in the subcontinent. So but no checking is done on that. No, there's nothing. Why would you give a business sort of like this to someone who's already well known for widespread fraud and cheating and corruption and so on in this space of moving people around? Well, you wouldn't. But then you go back to the government department that has the Western government department that has issued this license and finds all the people in charge of issuing the licenses. They're actually from the subcontinent as well. So you've got corrupt Indians giving license to another corrupt Indian to go and engage in corrupt practices in India and elsewhere. And so there's a chain of bribes being paid already. And for some reason, there's no oversight on this. Now, having, again, hired Indians and worked with them, you could have a minor oversight. For example, now, Sandeep, have you checked in the background of this person that you've issued a license to make sure that they've got no record, or that they're upstanding, and that oh yes, I have conducted a very thorough examination. Oh yes, yes. And that might be the end of it. So they just accept that and walk off. And now, if Sandeep gets caught out having not done one, I have been so busy, I just haven't had time. And so they try and bullshit their way out. And maybe in India you get away with it. And in the public service, the white public servant who would normally engage in more oversight is probably too frightened to do anything because he could be accused of being a racist. So there's, again, the oversight mechanisms just simply don't work here. So the guy who wants to get the licenses paid a bribe to his Indian mate or subcontinent mate buddy in the fucking public service who shouldn't have been there anyway, or shouldn't have been put in that area anyway, and then off he goes. Now, they then hunt around for people who are prepared to pay extortionate fees to get the chance to come to the West. Now, there are a few things here that I guess you've got a multi-layer situation here in terms of what in effect is modern day slavery. Say an Indian guy that owns a chain of, I don't know, take out chicken shops, for example, in Britain, say, and he wants to get cheap labour, so he'll pay. So, I'll loan you $30,000, for example, $25,000, whatever. Says to the Indian that wants to come here. And you can bring your whole family. Whoa, fuck! I can bring the dependent wife and have many children. So I'll you have to pay $30,000 in fees, but there's a business in England, an Indian guy, Mr. Krishna or something, and he'll loan you the $25,000, but you have to pay him back. Now, again, we're talking simple peasant people. They've got no concept of borrowing money and interest. They don't even understand it. Again, they're illiterate in their own language. And so they get all come out, they pay this fee, and they come out to the West and thinking it's all done and dusted. And then they find that the person that claims to have a license to do this sort of thing, bring people into the third world, actually hasn't got the license, or he gets inspected by the government eventually, and whatever license is revoked, and these sorts of things. So then this person, they still owe the money, but then the government says, well, you got 30 days or 60 days or 90 days to find another job, or you got to get out. So then they have to get another loan and pay more fees and so on. So they're a modern day slave. Now, if you look at the wage rate these people would be getting, flipping burgers and working in, and remember they're working through the labour hire group. So the labour hire group's taking their piece of the action from the hourly rate that the person's getting paid. It would take them pretty much a lifetime at those sort of wages, given they also have to pay their own expenses and pay their own rent and whatever. It would take a lifetime for these people to pay back the amount that they had to borrow to pay the bribes to get into the West. So we're talking a modern day round robin of slavery here. They'll effectively never be able to pay that money back. And the accommodation they have and the food they have and is all supplied by the same corrupt sort of cabal, if you like, as that was loaning them the money. But the agent that arranges, finds these peasants, or gets his piece of the action. He can get $1,000 a piece if he brings over a few hundred people in a year, which wouldn't be hard for someone like that. Then he could be pocketing, he could be living very, very well out of all this illegality, bribes, kickbacks, under the table cash payments, and so on. So you get that side, and then you get the various other sort of sides of it, or aspects of this sort of people trade in human misery and people, but also just the out and out deception that's used here. They can show flashy movies or of everyone dressed nicely in nice streets, having a great time in cafes and nightclubs and bars, and driving flash cars, hot blonde chicks and all this sort of thing. And this is you're an illiterate peasant living in a mud hut in the middle of nowhere. This is a very, you can have that. We can get you over there, and you can have that as well. Holy fuck, I can. Wow. Where do I sign up? So the seduction process, if you will, is not that hard to push on. So it's particularly the young men, which is why you see so many young men coming in as supposed migrants. But also you're talking about the bribing of various officials all through the process. You're bribing endless numbers of officials with $500 here, $1,000 there, $100 somewhere else. Bear in mind that in some of these countries that $100 US is some pretty, that's fairly serious money. That's equivalent to 3-4 weeks. That's equivalent to a month's pay. This is good money. So $100 actually gets you somewhere. But there's a lot of people have to be bribed. Officials to stamp passports, this, that, all sorts of things to let you through. Like you haven't got a proper visa to get through, pass through one country to another. That's a bribe. Then to cross another country, another bribe, and on it goes. So this money for bribes. Now, other targets they'll find a village or group of people that have a bit of money. Not a lot, but they have a bit. And the whole village will contribute to, because the idea is you can get one person from your village to get to a Western country. They get citizenship, then they can bring out the whole village because they will falsely claim, again, corruptly claim that they're all cousins of the person. There's no checking on this, and there's no real oversight on this either. So just one of our village members, people can get into the West, then they can bring the whole village out there. So they'll all contribute. They may all borrow money themselves, a few $100s each or something, or they've got maybe a few savings. Maybe they sell some of their livestock or something, and they'll get the money together to pay all the bribes just to get their one of them into the West. So these things are happening on, as far as I can determine, a grand scale. But the way the media depicted is, well, if these people were just allowed to walk into the West, without any sort of, then that would be a safe way of doing it. So then they wouldn't have to pay the bribes and they wouldn't be victims. Well, stop. Why don't you accept that they're breaking the law by paying bribes? Well, they're simple people. They can't read or write. So why? Well, if they're that simple and can't read or write, why would you want them as migrants? Well, someone's got to clean it. Well, they don't do that. I mean, half of these people are still on some sort of government benefit 25 years after they've arrived. So you look at the whole sort of thing, this depiction of these people as victims, but the extent of the corruption in this area of moving people and the slave labor, the debts and that they acquire, that they have to pay off, which effectively keep them as slaves for a lifetime. I can't imagine someone is so bitter and upset about their predicaments and in so much debt and having to live, such a Spartan lifestyle, would be wanting to give much help to some of these elderly infirm people in these nursing homes. And friends of mine who've had to put their parents or one of their parents into a nursing home. One case, I'm just thinking one not long ago, a guy wanted to put his mother into a nursing home, and she and it was quite expensive, and so his wife promptly filed for divorce because she didn't agree that any money should be spent on his relatives, but it's okay to spend money on hers in a nursing home. So she promptly files for divorce to sort of quarantine off that amount of money. Anyway, because of that, he had to put his mother into a budget. No, it was his father actually, into a budget nursing home, and he had dementia, and so he wasn't. He would when they came to give him his dinner, he would knock the tray over and this sort of thing. But as far as they're concerned, if he misbehaved in any way, he just wouldn't get fed. So if he knocked the tray over, that was it. You don't get dinner, buddy. Now they're meant to in the services they provide. They're meant to have orderlies there, male orderlies that restrain the patient, or restrain the the person while the nurse or the attendant or the orderly then feeds them, and this sort of thing. But because of budget cuts and because the glossy brochures never fully represent the reality. So he would go in to visit his dad once a week, and I said, well, gee, he's looking rather scrawny. What's going on? He's telling me that you won't give him dinner. And but most of the people there don't speak English anyway, and they come from a third world country. They're these tiny little 4 foot 10 inch tall, wherever, and so the service they're giving is terrible. The patients are simply not being cared for. So the idea of bringing in third world peasants to do the care for the elderly is simply bullshit. Now, in terms of it doesn't work, it's not delivering, and not even coming close to delivering. Now, the issue with care, which is saying, well, we have to do this, we have to bring in these third world peasants, otherwise there's no one who's going to care for the elderly. That's bullshit as well. It's just an excuse and a smoke screen to justify it. But the reality is that there's plenty of people who'd be happy to do this care work in the West, but it pays such a low wage that they either A, have to live communally, or B, they have to have some sort of rental assistance. So you find a lot of these people that are doing this work are also receiving government supplementary income and food stamps and all sorts of other things. They're part of this working poor. So really all the nursing home industry is doing is pushing the expense onto the taxpayer rather than paying a livable wage. Now there are, again, there's no innovation in the thinking of how do we supply the service, how do we get people that want to do this work. No innovation whatsoever, and no thought given to it. But if they offered some accommodation, heavily subsidised or whatever accommodation to workers, and workers would flock to this sort of work. And that's really what they need to consider doing. My wife and I were going traveling somewhere, and we ended up, there's a hotel we were going to stay at. We hadn't booked in ahead because we hadn't imagined this hotel, whatever we booked out. But there was some sort of a conference there, and that hotel was booked out. So we had to go to the next hotel that we could find at that time of night that had some vacant rooms, and there was this very budget and hotel that was definitely for the budget conscious. So we stayed there, but the room was fucking tiny. I've seen broom closets that are bigger than this. You had to turn sideways to get into the bathroom door, and sideways again to get into the shower, and you barely had enough room to use the toilet, and there wasn't even enough room to walk around where the bed was. You had to climb across it. Very compact room. But that sort of accommodate, why can't something like that be supplied to workers, or certainly a core of workers in the so by a bit of imagination and a bit of thinking about it, rather than just passing the cost on to moving a problem around is not solving a problem. And we're in a situation today in the West where it's the globalist cabal has adopted this mentality. If we can move the problem around, as far as we're concerned, as long as it's someone else's problem, we've solved it. But it isn't. Moving a problem around is not solving a problem. You've been with Tastus today, your Pushback Channel, and thank you for listening.